Up, everyone? Welcome to Crypto Cartel. It's been a while since we streamed, and a lot has happened. People are wondering, it was all over, and then we were so back, and then it was all over again with DeepSeek and tariffs. So everyone's wondering, is there going to be an alt season, and is alt season canceled? And that's kind of what we're here to figure out today, and bringing to you live, just based on TA, because that's really all you can trust is price action, what the chart is telling you. um, every cycle is different, and this cycle has definitely been very tough. If unless you're very, really sharp with everything. So we're going to go over whether we think there's still money to be made, whether alts are just cooked, or if there's still some opportunities in the market. So with that, let's get into Bitcoin, Alex.
All right, guys. So, welcome back. It has been a while. And, if you're in the group chat on our Telegram, we talked about some of the levels that we needed to respect for Bitcoin, right? A few things that I want to just kind of circle back and talk about, right? We did have a bearish divergence here. We came back down, but we continuously respected this level of the 90s region, right? After that, we came back up, and this was, one of the trends that I wanted to break above for us to go higher. But unfortunately, we didn't get to do that. We got rejected once. We did a W pattern. We wicked up, made a little higher high here, and then just came back down again. And the way I looked at it was, we're just, retesting, right? We're retesting. We broke out uh, of this falling flag. We bumped up. We retested once. We retested twice. And yesterday, I told the Telegram group to keep an eye on this section here, right? So I put a circle here. But Bitcoin had other plans, and it honestly made sense why this happened as I was looking at the weekly, and I'll explain that in a second. But essentially, we wicked down and again respected the 90s and bumped up all the way to $10,000. So what is this telling us? It's telling us that there is a huge amount of people just buying these dips. 90s is a great support. It's becoming an incredible support, right? And people are just buying this dip. However, think about it this way: if we've had this as support so many times, this also acts as resistance, right? In the case that we dump, it's going to be tough to get up. All right, just keep that in mind. Now, I did talk about the weekly, and let me just take a look at it here without anything, right? So this looks double topish, right? Like one, two, a double top, a McDonald's pattern, whatever you want to call it, right? Uh, and essentially that would mean that it would come all the way down here, but it's not looking like that. When I was looking at the weekly stochastics and at the MACD, that's what made me kind of really bearish was this MACD here. And we did wick all the way down into the red zone yesterday, but then we came back out of it, right? And as you can see, again, with price action of the stochastics, and I talked about this before, is we have the stochastics going down into lower levels. However, we're sustaining levels here with Bitcoin, right? We're going sideways, right? We're ranging from 109 all the way down to 90, back to 109, back to or 108, whatever, back to 91, 90, right? So this is very bullish in general for Bitcoin, right? We're coming down, but yet we're bouncing every time. So once we get all the way down here, don't be surprised. Like we may wick like again, maybe one more time, come down here, maybe do a little lower low, and then just rip, or just sustain ourselves in this region, right? And again, RSI is looking, it's not looking bad. I really like what the stochastics is doing here, right? Because we're not going lower in price. You see that happen, for example, here, right? Back on April 2022, 2022, we went up, right? The stochastics went up. It wasn't that high, but then look at when we fell. We dumped hard, right? And that hasn't happened. Not here. That means we're still in a bullish trend. So overall, we're doing okay in Bitcoin in the macro overview on the weekly. And I'll be honest, man, if we look at the 2 month, I mean, there's a lot of bullishness. And every time, like I said, when we go into a bear market, the MACD just it closes, right? And we get closer to around November. That's when we should have sold everything, right? Back in 2021. But you could see that there's weakness, right? And then we go into that bearish market. and then we come back out. And as you can see, there's a lot of strength. The green is a strong green. It's not like a light green like in this situation here. So overall, very bullish. I do want to talk about the scenarios where if we do dip, right? If we do have like a black swan event, because I like to keep both scenarios, the bullish scenario and the bearish scenario, right? As of right now, as of yesterday, I became very, very bullish. But there is that scenario where we could potentially dip, right? And I gave you guys this before, since December, to look at these levels here, right? And we've respected these levels. If you go look at our Telegram charts, it's exact, that line has not changed. Next levels are 80, and then the next one would be like in the mid 70s, right? What I am curious to see is what's going to happen here, right? Because we are getting rejected on the 21 MA daily. We may continue to go sideways here, right? We may not just pop up right away. It might be a few days, maybe a few weeks, right? Maybe go sideways and then pop. And I think that's going to tell us if we're going to go higher or lower. Maybe we're losing power, but we'll see over time, right? As of now, I'm bullish overall. Everything's looking good. But again, this could change in a few days, and I'll explain. I'll get into the dollar in a second. But Henry, do you have any thoughts or questions or anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think it's almost like the market was looking for a reason to be bearish to sell off. Uh, so let me share my screen real quick. Yeah, because we had two black swans in 2 weeks, basically, right? Like, suppose we had the deep seek sell off, and then we had also the tariffs and sold off on both. Do you see my screen?
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's interesting because everyone was expecting when Trump came in office was expecting like first week, bam, strategic Bitcoin reserve, massive buying from the U.S. government, and it's like things. When did he come in office? Like the 20th, right, or around there, that date, the 19th, and things were priced to perfection, and then some news came out and it wasn't as bullish. Like they were just evaluating whether to buy digital assets for the U.S. government, whether to going to be Bitcoin. As soon as all that, I got kind of bearish because that just says like Bitcoin isn't that special, right? If they're just going to buy any shitcoin, put it in the reserve. But so I cash, and I mentioned in the Telegram heavy cash after that, and then basically subsequently from that we started making lower lows and lower highs, and it's just been kind of like a slow bleed down, culminating in this sell off, right? And I do think yesterday, just based off the amount of liquidations that happened, I don't know if you guys saw, there was like between 2 to 10 billion liquidations. So a lot of people got carted out. A lot of leverage. I saw leverage got reset to like before the election, which kind of needs to happen for us to move up organically, right? So all this to say is basically the way I look at it is like really simple. Like we're just in a range, right? There's three things that price can do. You're either in a range, in an uptrend, or in a downtrend. And until this picks a side to start trending, whether it's down or up, then all you have to do for Bitcoin, at least, just Bitcoin, not all coins, is you sell, range resistance at the top, then you buy at the bottom. And anyone that did that since November would have been killing it, right? Now, and that's kind of my take on Bitcoin. There's really not much to it until it picks a side. Just sell resistance, buy support on the range. So sell 106, 108, buy anything below like 93, right? But then altcoins are a different story because while Bitcoin was kind of slowly bleeding down, altcoins just got absolutely murdered. Like I think very few altcoins, if any, outperformed Bitcoin during this time, which I think was surprising because most people were expecting kind of like a typical alt season in January after the halving, and that really should have been like the tell that consensus was that we were about to go to alt season, and you can see, I had drawn out the scenario a while ago. I think every time we had gone over BTCD, we had talked about the possibility of like one last spike, right? And that's exactly what played out. We had this fake out here in December, and then Bitcoin just slowly started creeping up. This is BTCD, so as a percent of the market cap, and this just means you're going down. And I don't know if this is the top because this is a pretty strong uptrend, but it's definitely a tough market for holding altcoins. I think you definitely want to just be trading right now, right? Trading in and out and stuff, and not really holding anything. What do you think about that, Alex?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I'll also show some of my levels on Bitcoin dominance, but that's one of the things that I did want to talk about. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a stream last week, but that's one of the things that I did want to talk about of how we were showing a lot of weakness in the market, right? And so I want to specifically dive into SUI, right? Because SUI has been one of the strongest coins. But before that, let's look at the DX or I'm sorry, the Bitcoin dominance, right? So yeah, we had the same thing. We had this whole thing labeled out the levels and that last week. I mean, we reached 64. My final targets were like 65, 66%, right, for Bitcoin dominance. And it's crazy because we have been seeing Bitcoin drop $10,000, right? From like 109 to like 90, or actually that's about 19,000. But we've seen altcoins bleed like 40, like 50%, 60. So we've seen a lot of blood in the market. And I've seen on other altcoins that are not relevant and they just get plummeted, right? And some of the things that I do want to talk about in this stream is like the strongest coins that we've had so far, right? Which would be Sui, Solana, and Doge in general. And I just want to dive in quickly into what we had for you guys in the Telegram group and the on our updates, right? So I charted this out. There was a trend that we had back in January 23rd, and I did talk about how this is a pivotal moment for us to either continue or break down. And there was a lot of bearish divergence in terms of this like one, two, three, the three drive, and then we were just looking very bearish in general. So we ended up breaking down. Give you another update here where we broke down. I was expecting uh maybe like from here to respawn back up to here and then shorted, but I didn't even get a chance to do that. So we came down to these levels of support, right? And I did talk about how this was a moment of support. If we don't hold this price, then we're going into this box here, right? And so into the circle here, I'm sorry, into this trend, right? Then as I was looking at the market again, and this was back on the 29th, then I was looking at the market again yesterday or over the week. And then yesterday I made an update and I said, uh, we bounced off of that exactly, right? But I did say if we don't hold that wide diagonal line, we should expect the mid 20s to 40s, right? And that's exactly what happened, right? It's and I can also show you how that ended up happening. But essentially, yeah, we did that. We wicked that. We came all the way down here and we hit support. That's exactly why I had that lined up there, right? But sometimes you'll see price manipulation, and it could go all the way down to 10 to 20. So I left room for just in case, right? And these were the areas where I actually added. I had buying orders. I've been cash since December, since that bearish divergence that Bitcoin showed. So I've been cash since, and then the market has shown us what was going to happen. But this was a great entry for now, at least. If we're going to look at in terms of the daily, we never closed the daily candle below this diagonal line, which means that we are still bullish until until or if we close below this line, right? We came down on the daily. We touched the 200 MA, and I mean, look at that bounce. I mean, this is incredible. We went all the way up. We did like a 60% bounce less than 24 hours, right? So this is to me this becomes very bullish overall because we needed to come. I mean, we pulled back from $5 all the way to like 238, right? And what I'm seeing here in the stochastics, we may just go, come back down a little bit, hold this range here, right? Do something like this, come down here, hold it around here, and then continue to move up, right? And where I'm going with this is, going back to what I said, the strongest coins. And as you could see, that was a 60% pump from that low. What is that showing? Strength, a lot of buyers, right? And we want to focus on those types of coins. So yeah, that's what I see for this one. Overall, we came back down on the weekly, and we're all the way down here. So I expect this to flip. Um, Overall, the market in the in the shorter time frame, so it's like the 4 hour, there is a rejection level here, right? And this is the area where I want to start breaking above again. As you can see, this is support. We break down, we get rejected, we break out, same thing again, support, right? Support. So this is a very crucial area for us to break above, right? And if we do break above, I'm expecting to see price all the way up to here, right? And this would be the other test, right? This would be the test where I want to see SUI break above this diagonal line. If we do that and if we go higher, then retest this area here, right? So we go higher, we retest. I'm expecting to see a $7 to $8 SUI, right? So I'm expecting these levels for SUI if we do pump. If we do break that region, right? This right here, this blue diagonal there, right?
What price is that?
Uh,
What
which
price
one?
do you, what region are you talking about? Like price wise, like what level would you be bullish? Like above what
Oh,
price?
yeah. So it would be above this price right here. So
What
between
is it? Because
yeah,
your
yeah,
screen's like smaller than mine.
yeah. Between 490, right?
Yeah.
Between 495 to 475. I want us to break above that. I want us to see us close. I would say I would feel very comfortable with a breaking a five, right? And holding that range. Breaking above a five. And if we dip, hold between 490 and 475. I want to see us hold those levels, right? But it needs to break. I need to see this break. Ideally, I want to see something like this, right? I want to see something like, we come up here, we break, right? And then we just retest that level and then we continue. That's what I want to see. I don't want to, and obviously this would be like all the way down here, just because of time wise, right? It'd be like somewhere around here. But to me, like I said, if I see this and we wick, so and I'll give you another scenario, and this is why I have this circle here, right? Because this is where I want to do business again. And let's just say that something like this happens, because to me, in my head, this is like a potential shoulder, head, and shoulder, right? Or or we could easily just be doing something, we go sideways here, sideways, we dip a little bit here, whatever, and then we pump, we retest, and then we continue. And then, at around here, for example, we can't break out of this, and this could just be a double top, meaning that this would be around, again, scenarios, right? March, April, May, June, I don't know. But here we can wick up, and if we don't hold above these levels, to me, that's a automatic short, right? And
Is
with
that
that
at
being said,
five?
yeah, that's a 5 day. Weekly
No, no, the
indicators over.
five like $5
Yeah,
price.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that I want to see us close above it and hold on a weekly basis. If I see a weekly closing above, the 530, essentially making a higher high on a weekly, I'd be very bullish, right?
But that's
Also
like
looking at,
it's a long
Mhm.
ways. That's like 100, almost 80% pump from here.
Dude, I
Like you're
mean,
gonna be bullish after we
we
pump 80%.
we just pumped 60%, right?
That's what I'm
In less
saying.
than
So you're like You're saying you're gonna be bullish after 100% pump?
No, no, no. I mean, I'm bullish now. I already had in my buying orders down here, so I'm good. Like I'm good for the ride, right? I'm
Yeah,
saying like I'm gonna print this whole way up. What I'm saying is, if if we don't break these levels, I'm not expecting a higher high. I'm expecting to short. Period. Like that's where it ends, right? Um, that's it. I mean, overall, with this 60% pump, I am bullish in general, but I'll be even more bullish once we start making higher highs. I mean, I guess there's just levels to bullishness, right? Um, but yeah, do you have
but
any? Go ahead. Mhm.
as a setup, there's not really a setup here anymore, right? Like a setup was
Mm,
probably that that retest of that line,
yeah. So I'll give you,
that
I'll
wick,
give you, I'll give you two scenarios, okay, in the shorter time frame. And let me get rid of this bubble here. Let me clean this up. Um,
because the setup you're talking about is a setup of a short. I see.
well, I see. I'm already in the long, right? So I'm prepping in case the short comes in a few months. I don't know, but I'm already preparing for that.
No, yeah, but let's say like people, whoever's watching missed that entry, then what's the takeaway for them? The takeaway, because to me, this doesn't. We were pretty bullish Sui, and it was in an uptrend, and now it's no longer in an uptrend, right? It's
No,
almost like
it still is.
distributing.
It
You
still
think
is.
so?
Yeah, it is because look, if you go back, our trend has been holding since August, right? We've been pumping, pumping, pumping. It did look like we were about. If we were to close the daily below this, that was mega bearish. But no, we came back inside the pattern, right? So this was just
Yeah.
pretend like this didn't even exist, right? Just pretend that okay, we're bouncing off the pattern, right? And so, and then I'll just give you two because if you look at the daily, it's literally just a wick. Look at that. It's like nothing ever happened, right? Uh,
Except everyone that lost money,
exactly, exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everyone that
But
got liquidated.
I mean, that's 8 billion. That's insane. When I was reading, it was more than FTX, which is fucking wild. Um, but all right, so let's just say you did miss that entry, right? There's two things. I mean, there's as I'm on this entry, like as I'm on Sui right now. If we end up breaking below this, I have a stop loss already, right? So I'm already set up, ready to go. If we break below this, I'm cutting my stop losses, around 260, 270. It depends. I'm going to take it day by day, but there's a few things I think we may possibly do, right? In terms of just TA in general. So right now we are in a big area of resistance, and that's one thing that I need to see breaking. So far I like the fact that we closed a daily above 350, right above this area. To me that's a good sign. What we may see happen is probably maybe two scenarios, something like this, right? We just go sideways, we retest a little bit, right? We go into the 40s, we come up, and then we flag, right? And then we rip. That's one scenario. The other scenario would be we come down and and it's actually kind of perfect. We retest the point 0.5, right? And that is the trend that we want to continuously hold. So we may possibly do something like this, right? We may come all the way down to here by Friday, maybe, right? Around that area. Or we may just flag all the way down into those regions here, right? I don't know how long it's going to take or where. And then from there, it's pivotal moments. Do we wick down from there and then come back up and then continue to the upside, right? The reason why I say that is because every single time, what happens? We bounce. And I think this is the perfect example here. Look, we dumped, we dumped again, but we respected that. We pumped and then we dumped again, but respecting that trend, right? And then we ripped. It wouldn't surprise me if we did the same thing for Subi, right? We dump again. I don't know if we'll fill the wick again. I can't tell you that. But ideally, I want to see these levels hold. We come back down, we dip a little, maybe we dip back to the 618 and then continue, right? Or just hold these levels, right? Or flag and then continue. So those are the scenarios that I could possibly give you for SUI to enter position, right? Um, Now in terms of like the 4 hour stochastics and the 8 hour and the 12, the other reason why I'm still really bullish is because we just made bullish divergence on SUI. So look at that. We swung so low from there to there, but if you look at the RSI, we made a higher high on the RSI. So that means that's a reversal, right? That's bullish. And that's on the 12 hour, on a 22 hour, on a daily time frame, it's a little bit strange, but the only thing again that makes me bullish on this one would be the stochastics. We made a lower low, but the stochastics made a higher high, right? And to me, that's an indication of bullishness in general because we didn't pin it, right? We bounced really quick. So again, to me, this becomes a bullish divergence right here, right? From here to here, that's bullish divergence, and then the price came all the way down, right? So yeah, those are the scenarios that I could give you. We have to see how we react, in the next week. I mean, we literally had a 60% pump. Uh, and one of the things well, before I move on, do you have any questions for Sui, or do you want to add anything to Sui?
Um, yeah, I think it's there's some nuance here because
Mhm.
here, let me just share my screen real quick.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, what are you really trying to accomplish with alts, right? For me, every alt is an experiment, and the only thing that's proven itself, the only thing that has adoption, that countries are literally contemplating buying, is Bitcoin.
right.
Uh, and every chart long term of an altcoin is in a downtrend. Like that's what their destiny is, until
Yes,
unless you're like Doge or Sol, but 99.9% of that's why they're shit coins, right? Like they only outperform Bitcoin for temporary windows, right? And you can see that with Sui. It's a perfect example. So it had its low here in July, and it went, I mean, on a crazy run versus Bitcoin, right? Made almost a new all-time high if you don't count the wick. 5x versus Bitcoin, right? Beautiful. And if you don't get out of these things at some point, look at how much you lost in Bitcoin in since when was this? January. This is literally wow. It's literally less than a month. Look at how much it drew down versus Bitcoin. 50%. Okay. That is a lot, a pretty big loss versus Bitcoin. So Bitcoin went down 10K. Sui went from $5 to 250, right? So I think we just have to be like clear about what exactly we're setting up here. Like, is it a perp trade? Are you trading it to get more Bitcoin? Um, because that's kind of what I was alluding to in the beginning. Like, this is not a holders market. Like, if you look at Sol BTC last cycle, um, I can pull it up here. Like that was like a trend, right? Like a definitive uptrend for several months, um, and it was like a secular, almost a year long trend that you could hold and be comfortable in your spot soul, right? And with the point being of at the end of the day, you're trying to get more Bitcoin. So this is Soul BTC. Um, so let's take a look at the halving, right? The halving was in 2020. So if we look at the year after the halving in January, you had this crazy run. I mean, definitely way more than 500% up until September 21. So that's 9 months. Um, and you had a couple more months to get out. But the point is, this is very different from what you see from Sui. Because this, there was 20, 30% drawdowns, but it's become more of like a rotators market versus holding. So I think we should just be clear on like we're bullish Sui, but what's the setup, right? Does that make sense?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, but that's exactly what I did, right? I gave you my entry, right? If you're in the Telegram group, you would have seen the entry, multiple entries. So one of the things that I recommend everybody is to have entries ready, right, at different levels, because you're never going to catch the bottom. But what you can do is start
Yeah.
putting buy orders at specific levels that you're like, okay, well, if this happens, then this happens, right? So you're going level by level. And I keep saying that in the group, take it day by day. Now, to answer your question, the setup, my setup for me is I'm in very comfy with Sui, right? Personally, right? I'm good with Sui. And
Yes, you're in.
right.
You're
And
in.
then
I know you're in. I was
so
saying, what's for the
so
audience? What's this about?
right. And so that's what I'm trying to tell you for the audience and including myself. Where do I see Sui going? I see it going back up. I see a rebounds going, right?
To
Now,
five.
how far it goes up, I don't know. Obviously, I don't read the future, but I am giving you levels of where to watch, right? In case that there is weakness in the market. And so let's just say that you decide to buy in right now at 350. You have the opportunity to make a 40% gain, right? On SUI, 40 to 50%. That's as much as you could go. If we go higher, great. You know what I mean? That works out. You get some money, but will Bitcoin do a 40% over SUI? Maybe, maybe not, you know? So, because right now we're at 110, 100K, right? Is Bitcoin going to do 100% or a 50%? Maybe it could go to 150,000, right? Sui could possibly
Well,
do the same.
I think that's a really important point
Mhm,
there. Like, why is it that Bitcoin has been outperforming every single alt? Because what used to happen in the market, you saw the soul chart is first Bitcoin pumped, everything went in order. First Bitcoin pumped, people made money on Bitcoin. They took their profits and they bid alts, right? So that money was in the crypto ecosystem already. It was in people's accounts. It was rotating. Now the people bidding Bitcoin, they aren't bidding anything else. They are just literally buying Bitcoin through an ETF and never, if they sell it, they're not throwing that in alts, right?
mhm.
So you just have to be aware. Like if you're taking risk buying an altcoin, just make sure that you're outperforming Bitcoin, because otherwise you're just taking more risk for no reason. And
Now,
I think,
mhm.
yeah, go ahead.
No, and that's exactly why when we started the show is why I said there's only three coins I'm going to look at because I think that those coins are going to outperform Bitcoin. Right? These are the only that's
Yeah,
the only reason why, and that's Doge, Sol, and Sui. Like I can't think of maybe like Farcoin, but I can't think of any large market caps, any other coins that are going to outperform Bitcoin. Which is why this is all I've been looking at. These are all my. I'm actually just in Doge and in Sui. I didn't get a chance to get into Sol, but this is why I'm showing you guys this. It's these are the three coins that have shown to be very very strong. If there's another one, it could be hype, right? And I know you want to talk about hype, but that's the thing. You have to be able to, going back to our conversation that we had like 2 weeks ago, every we were talking 2 weeks ago and we were talking about how the market was so diluted. People are going into the trenches for pump fund, right? They're not investing in like major alts anymore. And if you can see some of these, they look
yeah,
terrible. You know what I mean? And I mean, perfect is I don't know if you saw the XRP chart. It's one of the most disgusting charts I've seen in a long time. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I just want to finish one point on Sui because I think
Yeah.
like it shows you even because we were saying for months since we've been doing the stream like Sui's a leader, Sui's outperforming, and you have to always check your bias. It's not like we didn't get. I mean, we did get bearish near the top on Sui, but the point is to always constantly be reevaluating how it looks versus Bitcoin, because it was all good for 3 or 4 months, and then bam, in 3 weeks you're down 50% versus Bitcoin. Like that's on one of the best projects with the best metrics, the best fundamentals, right? So it's just like a word of warning. But one thing I think is interesting with Sui because I think like it's getting to the point where it's kind of late cycle, and personally, I want to be throwing on some hedges. If you see like this yellow line, this 50 MA, you see how it's kind of like respected this like since basically since the low. You had one retest, two, three, four, and now for the first time, you're kind of under it. So this looks like it could be topping, or it already did top, and like the risk reward for me personally is like how do I look for a short, but I do agree with you like above five, yeah, target new highs for Sui. But if we make like a lower high, um, you know, I would short that. But this, yeah, let's move on. So uh, another one I think you mentioned is hype, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, okay, so hype, I think, and kind of like Sui has shown strong fundamentals like mind share. They've kind of made their dent in the crypto universe, right? And uh, I think when you have like big flushes like this, you want to be looking at what bounces the hardest, the fastest, what gets a bid off the bottom, because that's basically, to me, the market showing its hand of these are going to be the next leaders. So you can see it did sell off since Saturday. What was that? What trying to break out of this range, 28, all the way down to 20, and bounced like 25%. So you can see if you go to like a bigger, longer time frame, there's a lot of wicks here. Like there's a lot of support here at $20. There's people that find value at $20. So I think in terms of like risk reward, I think hype uh, eventually breaks out of this range and probably goes to new all time high. But the tricky part is if you didn't get in at 20, where are you looking to get in? I'd say like either I would do either when it breaks above the monthly open, which is a little higher from here, but if you want to play it on the safe side, either that or you DCA all the way down to 20, right? And you target, you know, that it makes a new all-time high, which is pretty good return, I think, in this market. Uh, what do you think as like a safer setup for hype?
No, I agree with with what you said. I think that um the 20s is a good. I was looking at it before the stream, but I think you're right. That's probably a good. Um, yeah. I mean, this is. I don't. I have my doubts that we see it lower because this chart reminds me of when I was looking at what was it not Jupe, but the other one. No, I can't remember which one. But anyway, so we're
Jito?
making look Jito. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it did exact look. It did the exact same thing. We were doing higher high, higher high. We're making consistently higher highs. And look, I haven't. There's going to be a bullish divergence on this wick. There's like more than likely going to be one. And let's see. Yeah, if you look at the daily, right? Actually, no, there isn't that much, but it's still an uptrend, which is good, right? And what I see this doing is probably a breakout. We could be doing like another breakout from here, right? We are above the 21 MA, which is on the daily, which is really bullish. But in terms of like finding an entry, uh, I don't know. I mean, I think you might have. There is these wicks that are if you see the wicks on the daily, they're acting as resistance, and it's obvious why, right? Because of this region here. So that becomes a resistance. If all right, so yeah, so if we do come back down, I would expect us to bid around here, 24, right? Because this is a support region there.
You
I
don't think
would
it goes any lower than that?
I don't to be honest, man, this to me this right here is an indicator, right? Because we're breaking out of pattern, and that usually gives like enough juice to start bouncing back to the upside. And if you look at Jito, it did the same thing, right? I mean, it did the whole wick, and then it bounced. Let's go back here.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, it
it
does
did
look that.
one, yeah, and so I messed up on this one. I mean, I would have printed on that, but anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing for this one, and after that, it just keeps going, right? And then when we're going back to hype, it's similar, but there's a lot of strength. That's why I like to buy these wicks, and kind of going back to that dump that we literally lost it from in 3 weeks. I personally learned my lesson back in April because I rode Tia all the way up to like 26, and then literally within 3 weeks, I lost most of my gains. It was very upsetting. But from that, we learn, right? Uh, so again, this one double bottom to me, I could see this as like a W pattern, right? And then yeah,
What would you put as like a target of like
uh,
where
I'll
this?
be I'll be very honest. I'm starting to be more conservative with everything in general. So maybe like back it to the old time high. I'm saying that just because like we said, we're looking at a market that's rotating very fast, and I'm not gonna say that we're for alts. There may be a possibility that we may not make higher highs for alts anymore, and that's it. So I'm not saying that we're going to continue to make higher highs, but with alts right now, I'm very, very skeptical of that, right? And so if you look at this W pattern, it literally takes us back to $36, right? Which would be from here, that's like a 50%, 40%, right? Um, and I mean, the market has shown that twice. And you remember last year and again this year. It's showing that when Bitcoin does like something so small, alts just die. And will they come back? I don't know, you know?
They
And
probably
so
won't. Like
they probably
most
won't.
probably won't. But
Hmm.
you can still trade them. You can still make
Exactly.
money with them. You don't need to hold them like you know till
Exactly.
Bahala. You can still just double. Quick double, 50%. Let the wins compound instead of trying to hit like.
Exactly. I'm 100% with you there. But yeah, I think this one is still a really good one. If we come back down to these levels to like, I think DCA in between 25 and 23 is not a bad place. It's like a 9 to 7% difference. Uh, so this wouldn't be a bad idea. I wouldn't, and just in general, I want to say something in general. I wouldn't say we're out of the woodworks yet, uh, because it's kind of crazy what Trump just did, right? And I do want to talk about that volatility. So I talked about the DXDY back in December, which is the dollar, and our targets. We held support, and one of the things that I said yesterday was, RSI is going up. It's showing a lot of bullishness. Uh, and this is what I said, right? As the RSI is going down, the price is still sideways or it's going up. And I said, hopefully we don't reach targets and we double top so crypto can continue to pump. And the crypto gods heard me. We double topped because Trump came back and said, "Oh, just kidding. Like we're not going to put tariffs just yet." And so guess what happens? We just dumped again, right? And that's when we see Bitcoin dominance. Just like after that pump, we dump. That's when we see all these alts just ripping from that news, from that support region as well in different areas. So with Trump being in presidency, I think there's going to be a lot of volatility in general. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean the guy's a wild card. You don't know what he's going to say or do, so you just got to be ready on both sides.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Do you wanna look at another one? I have Doge and Sol that I wanted to look at, and then do you have anything else?
Yeah, I think Doge, and Sol are good to look at. I think like right now is not the time to be going fully risk on. Like you want to be in safe, large caps.
Yeah,
Like stack the wins, cut losses quick, because you're definitely not out of the woods yet with Bitcoin.
I agree with you there. I definitely agree with you. So yeah, back if you guys again joined the Telegram group, if you guys were there, I was looking at this earlier this week, and I charted this and sent it into the group yesterday, right? We had, I'd said if we don't hold the 0.25 region, I'm interested in possibly accumulating in the region of 0.20 cents to 23 cents. I said, however, I have a scenario where we wick down to 18 before we bounce. Fortunately, we didn't wick all the way down to 18. We just kept it at 20 because that would have been kind of bad for some of my positions that I did leverage, but it all worked out. Uh, we wicked down to the 20 region, and we are looking very interesting here. And I'll tell you why, because we are in this. I mean, if you end up charting this exactly this way, it's kind of spot on, right? It's not going to be perfect, but we do a touch here, a touch here, a touch here, and guess what? Another one here. And so that was, to me, that was one indicator. Two, this is a support region, just like SUI, right? So it didn't surprise me. And again, if you go back to our December to January lives, I gave you guys this scenario. I said there is a possibility we have to come back down here to retest and then continue to the upside. And yeah, that's what I see for Doge. For Doge so far, I see it in a flag. So there may be some great news at some point. Uh, to me, this is one of the coins that that Musk has essentially taken over, right? And so again, another reason why I have Doge is because Trump is behind that. Musk is behind that. And if we decide to, continue our upwards or trend, because we're still on an upwards trend, we're not making any lower lows just yet, right? If we can't make a higher high, then yeah, then we're just continuously making lower lows. But I could see us, coming back up here. Maybe some news happens, whatever. Uh, you know, Musk decides to make Doge, you know, the dollar instead of the dollar. Some bullish news, and we pump, right. And to me, this is the higher risk, lower risk, higher reward. In my personal opinion, I do like this one as a setup, in general, right. So levels to watch if you did not get an entry. Again, we're not out of the woodworks just yet, but one thing I would like to see here is some sort of flag, right? Ideally, I want to see something like this, right? Maybe come back down to 25 or something and then continue to the upside. We'll take a fib and we'll look at it that way. Yeah, I would say anywhere between the point 0.5. I mean, ideally, we have to hold the point 0.5. Wouldn't surprise me if we come down to these lows here, right? The 618. Again, all of this craziness just happened within 24 hours. So it would take some, maybe like a few days to see how the market starts adjusting again, right? Specifically for alts. But as you could see, this is also a big rejection point, right? So take it one day at a time. In general, I am personally bullish on Doge until I see more weaknesses, right? I do want to see us break above this level on a weekly, right? So by this weekend, by Sunday, I want to see us above 30 cents, for me to continue to be bullish. If not, then we're gonna have to talk about it again, right? Do you have anything to add for Doge?
What do you think of? Because I think there's like really maybe two or three assets you can actually hold if you have a good entry, right? Like you hold for like a
Mhm.
4 or 5x, like your safe part of your portfolio. I'd put Bitcoin and maybe Sol in that category. What do you think about putting like Doge in that? Because it is over time, it's one of the few altcoins that has outperformed Bitcoin like over the long term.
Yeah. I mean, so what you're asking is to basically go heavy on specific coins, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like if you catch one of those wicks, like instead of trading, you could trade for 50%, but if you catch it at 20 cents and it goes to a dollar, and you do that with size, like that's not a bad coin to bet on to do that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's
100%.
they're all
And
they're all shit
that's what
coins, but that's one of the nicer shit coins,
yeah.
more
I mean,
established ones.
and if remember when we started doing the stream, we talked about the strongest coins, and so far nothing's changed. They've all been the same, right? And I think for the both of us, and Doge for us has been the number one coin to stick around to ape, just because it's an archaic number one meme coin that has been in the top 10 cryptocurrencies. So that already speaks
I just look
volumes on it.
I
Good.
look at like what XRP did. Like if you pull up that chart,
Yeah.
and I don't see why Doge couldn't do the same thing, except maybe because you don't have one corporate entity controlling like 80% of the supply. Like maybe it's more like natural price discovery, but I feel like market cap isn't really a reason for a coin. Like, having too large of a market cap isn't for it not to 5x. I think if it gets into like the right, the right timing, things line up. And we saw with like the Dino coins, right? Those were the ones outperforming. Everyone
Yeah,
thought, Dino coins were dead, weren't going to do anything. Their market cap's too big, and guess what? They outperformed all the new stuff. So I think Doge
exactly.
has
Yeah.
one more big run in it.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and that's why this has been on my list on my I've had alerts, and that's what got me to also alerts on just many different levels, and then buy-in orders as well. Same thing with this one, same thing with Sui. And so again, guys, like if you're gonna go into position, make sure you're looking at levels. You're waiting. I had to wait since December. I went cash in December. I had to wait since December to for this moment. So it took me like a month literally to then start bidding again. And then so that's for both Doge and Sui. And then Sol, it was my I had this trend. Maybe the trend wasn't as perfect as I thought it was, but I had this trend be respected to these levels. But we wicked once and twice, and we never touched that blue zone. But I did give you those levels also on the here, right? So I sent you this. I believe it was like a it doesn't matter the time, but I think it was like at night at 6 or 7 p.m. It was at $200. Then I went to do some shopping. I came back, alerts were going crazy. But I did tell you to keep an eye on the blue diagonal line, right? For that bounce. If we don't hold these levels, that's where I'm expecting to respect, right? And that's exactly what we did. Remember, we were respecting levels for Solana since October 2023, so since almost a year and a half, right? And yeah, I mean, we didn't reach those like that exact. I mean, look at that exact line, which was like 168, right? We went to like 174, and then from there we ripped up. And again, one of the things that I want to continue to say is I'm not saying that we're going to continue to make a higher high because all such just they've all been strange. It's a very tough environment to read just because the whole market has changed comparing back to 2017, right? Where you just buy 4 or 5 coins and they're all rip. Uh, but I did see like a double top here, and I do want to show you something here. And I see a lot of bearish divergence on the bigger time frames for Solana, and that bearish divergence started back in like December 2023, right? But it was ignored because it's still a bullish coin. However, I do see a
Alex,
double top here.
sorry to interrupt. We got a
Yeah.
quick audience question here. If you had to put a target for Sui end of the cycle, what would you put it?
Yeah. Let's go back really quickly. So yeah, I did. It just depends on the levels. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I can't guarantee you that we're gonna get to a higher. I don't know. I don't know how the market's gonna react with Bitcoin, with alts, with Bitcoin dominance. But what I did earlier was to give you specific levels, right? So
But if you
this
had to guess like a target
I
at the
can't.
peak,
I can't. I can't. I can't.
it
I
can't be
can't. I
done.
can't do that. I can't. I cannot. And I
I
can't.
can guess. I can guess it's going to be below $1 by the end.
Wait, wait. Oh, you're talking about how low it's gonna get?
No, no. Well, I think he was asking what's the max that it's going to reach.
Okay. So, all right. So max, I gave you the example, right? Max, I see it between $7 to $8. If everything works
Yeah.
out and we're mega bullish, that's what I see. And I'll tell you why. And I'll even give you the reason why. Because what I'm doing is I'm taking from our last impulse, right, to our other high from that trend that we're continuing, right? That's one level. And if we continue that next level, if we make, if we get even more bullish, yeah, exactly. It's like the 7, 8 region, right? $7, $8 region. So that I think that's as high as we can get for Sui. I am, and I will play it very carefully around this region here, right? I talked about that, but to answer your question, that's it. We'll try to send it to Valhalla, Aaron. Good shit. um, yeah, where were we?
I think you're covering Soul,
Soul,
but
right?
I think it's
Yeah, go
it's
ahead.
tough to put like end of cycle targets on stuff anymore because it's more of like the end of that rotation, right?
Yo, you might want to repeat that. You completely cut off.
Oh, I was just saying like it's tough to put end of cycle targets because the cycles are vicious and quick. There's not all like everyone goes up together, everyone tops out together. It's like no, first memes are gonna top, then A's AI tops, then the L1s top. So like it's not that's why you can't really put a target on these things. You just have to feel out like when
Yeah,
momentum gives out. Because when you have a target, that's how you round trip stuff, having
exactly.
an arbitrary target.
Exactly. Yeah. So Aaron, just join our Telegram, and then we'll give you updates there. That's why we have the Telegram, and we start to see every all the different levels uh, on a daily basis. Because again, things can change. You can see some bearish divergence, some bad news, whatever, right? And I'm not saying we're gonna get to $7 to $8. I am very, very maybe bearish around this area because I don't looking at the way the market's been going for alts, it's a little weird. It's uncharted territory. And even if that, I could probably see us topping off even at $4. Again, depending. So we'll just take it a day at a time, right? We'll see what happens in the next few weeks. We'll see what happens with the dollar. Just so many things that are that are things just to wait and look at. So we'll leave it at that, right? Henry, do you want to add anything?
No, I do want to touch on Soul, but just whenever you wrap up.
Yeah, let me just finish up Solana. I'll give you the bullish and the bearish. Fuck is this one? Damn it, it's KuCoin. Yeah. All right. So yeah. All right. So we made a higher high. We wicked and then we came back down. Right. And this is the perfect example that I was talking about. Sui. Right. So we wicked up and we never closed a candle above on a weekly, right? There's no candle closing. It's just a wick, and we just came back down. And that's if we see that on Sui, I am going to be very, very bearish. But moving on, there's a few drives here that we already hit. We hit, the one crap. We hit one, two, three, right? And if you look at it, it's also a double top, right? Uh, it's very tricky again because there is bearish divergence in a lot of levels. And let's go to the day. So the 3 day, actually, you know what? I think most of the bearish divergence played out. I think the only thing we're left with is the 5 day, right? Maybe a higher high and a higher low, but we did dump, which every time I see this, it's almost as if we reset, right? And now we're gonna have to wait for the smaller time frames to get us out of that. In terms of a weekly time frame, it's hard. Again, it's hard to say. I want to see these, flip the stochastics to flip back up again to continue to the upside. If we keep getting rejected here, it's going to be a short, right? Now, in terms of what happens if we pump, my targets for this one, I could see this like almost as a double bottom, right? Or even as a cup and handle, right? From here to here, like a really messed up cup and handle. So I could see it in terms of, getting higher to that level. And then as a W pattern, let's see, yeah. So I would say, and this is conservative. I'm not saying that, we could definitely see higher, but this is a conservative target if we're bullish to see it above, close to $400 for Sol. And I say that again because this could become a double bottom, right? We just come back down here again and then boom, we rip. So the double top is negated. We are respecting levels here of support. We are making higher highs. We haven't made a lower low. It is still looking kind of bullish. So um, until we break this trend since October, I'm still bullish. I'll leave it at that. Henry?
Yeah, no, I thought you were wrapping up.
No, no, yeah, that's it. Yep. Do you want to add anything to Soul?
I'll just say like yeah. Let's look at it versus Bitcoin, and I think
Yeah, do it.
Sol is one of the few altcoins with like concrete catalyst drivers, whatever you want to call them. I think the main one would be obviously like a Sol ETF with Trump, the new regime, the new regulatory regime. Um, do you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, so this is versus Bitcoin. So it looks a little different from the USD chart. I think it looks like really bullish. Uh, like you're in this consolidation flag. Like this is the two week chart. So it's literally been consolidating for over a year now versus Bitcoin. And I do think with all the catalysts coming up, with all the traction that Sol has, I do think it could at least maybe not an all-time high, but at least trade back to the top of the range versus Bitcoin. So that'd be 40%, or potentially a new high, depending on just how much more momentum they gain. But I think just like we started the stream, right? This is just the simple range. You just long short and you sell resistance, and this is versus Bitcoin. So I think Sol looks still pretty versus Bitcoin, and maybe just to wrap it up, ETH, I think it's cooked. If you're gonna long, I do think Sol eventually flips ETH. I think I've seen enough.
This
I mean,
looks
look
like
at
a
this
wrong
chart, man. This
chart.
is this is a crime.
This is a pump fund chart that I just got rugged in.
Yeah, this is a pump fun shitter. But what I kind of want to wrap up with is, you know, we're talking about how it's not a holders market, it's a traders market. So I think we're gonna like Alex and I have talked about shifting strategy a bit to just literally trying to accumulate more soul through some of these launches. And we've shared some of the plays in Telegram, but I do think like there has been an alt season, but it's been on chain. There hasn't been an alt season for centralized exchange coins, right? Everything's on chain, everything's new launches. So I would say that is probably where you want to be focusing. That's where we're going to be focusing, unless it's like a big, like a Doge or catching the bottom on Sui, where you can go in with size and like in a really clear setup. But those only come across every couple months. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to add.
Yeah. So I just one of the things that I saw on your chart that we should definitely show we should show everyone. And guys, if you just tuned in, we are talking about the main coins that are gonna perform strongly, right? And we said Doge, Sol, and Sui, right? And possibly Fartcoin. I'm not dismissing that one. So you did. I like what you had here. And to me, this is a cup and handle, right? Which means that Sol could be making higher highs against BTC. And this would probably be from where we're at now to that. It's almost like 150% gain, which honestly, it would make sense. It really would. Um, to see Sol make some crazy gains and to also for Sol to flip ETH. One, we just had Trump throughout his coin in the Solana ecosystem. I mean that's huge, right? Two, ETFs, right? And three, it's just the amount of volume that Solana has just because of its shitters. Like it's pump fund and all the different coins that have reached over 1 billion market cap in the Solana ecosystem. I mean, it gives more reason to be more bullish on Solana than on ETH. I'd be even
Yeah.
more bullish on. I mean, like I said, I mean, it all adds up. It makes sense. Sol, Sui, and Doge. Maybe if I would have to dismiss one out of the three, it'd be Sui, and I would still be bullish on Sol and Doge. You know.
Yeah, just one
So
one thing to know with Soul is I think the reason price has been kind of suppressed is they have some big unlocks coming up. I believe it might be the end of this month or March. Like I'm talking like big unlocks, like billions, double digit billions coming to market. But I think like once we get that out of the way, whether it's a sell off because of the unlock or before, or it's a bullish unlock, I think then you're going to see that overhanging. And there's really, to me, no reason. After Sol gets an ETF, there's no reason why it shouldn't flip or at least trade on par with ETH when it has, more economic value with more apps, more adoption. Like any metric you slice it, Sol is winning. So it doesn't make sense to me why it would trade at a lower market cap. Unless
yeah,
ETH just does something drastic, right? Which they haven't in the last 4 or 5 years. So that's kind of hoping for like a white swan there.
yeah. No, I think ETH is pretty. I mean, all right, just really quickly on ETH. ETH actually surprisingly respected levels. I was very shocked. We talked about it a while ago, and it's crazy because we're in this sort of parent pattern where we could break out. Look at that. We've respected since 2022. We've been respecting the same trend, making higher highs, right? If you ask me, if you're like, all right, like look at this coin. I mean, we are making higher highs. It is bullish when we're making higher highs. We're not making lower highs, right? We did try to break out, but we couldn't. And I mean, this was honestly like a perfect entrance for a long. They pumped 30%. But maybe some catalyst comes up, and we do see some levels. I've already charted this one out of what levels to expect if something changes. But I mean, again, it's showing some sort of sign of bullishness. There was bearish divergence there, but I mean, we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. Uh,
Something needs to like something drastic needs to happen. Like they got to fire Vitalik or something. Something really dramatic, decisive needs to happen. Otherwise, they're just going to die a slow death.
yeah, no, I agree with you there. And last but not least, I do want to look at Fartcoin because it has been it's a contender. It's a very strong coin. It's funny, it's a joke, but it makes sense. I had these levels to look out for rejection and for support, and we did. I didn't buy into this one. I wanted to, but as soon as I saw the whole thing happening, I went into other coins. But essentially, we went ahead and we had support, 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 and then that deviation there, and then we ripped up. I think that rip was 50% gains. Yeah, 50 from the top, right? Um, it is showing strength. I mean that is I was looking at some of the data, and it showed that it gained over 7,000 holders, and I think 1.2 million or more than that was like pumped into Farcoin. Now
It's in
let's
the day. They gain 7,000 holders.
Yeah, yeah,
That's pretty
uh,
crazy.
yeah. So I mean, it is showing. Crap. It is showing momentum, but I do want to look at some of these indicators. We did pick up with volume here on this area. We are showing almost some sort of bullish divergence. Eh, yeah. On the 8 hour, we're showing bullish divergence. We made a higher low, higher high, a lower high, and a higher low on the RSI. We're pumping. But yeah, I mean, this area here seems like it's struggling. So I mean, again, we dumped so hard, and then we pumped 60% for a lot of coins, 50, 40%. So expect a little retracement. It's not going to go up all the way. And I think within the next week or two, we're going to see where the market's going to want to go. And that's what we're waiting for right now. That's what I'm waiting for too. If I need to, sell my positions, if we go lower, I already have my stop. stop losses ready to go, or if we just kind of wick down to the point 0.5 or the 618 and then we just continue, we get out, right? We get out to the upside, or we could just double bottom and then rip again. Who knows? So
Well,
yeah, I mean,
zoom out on
but
this one. Like this one is crazy resilient because it dumps 60, 70%, then it pumps like 3x, and it's done that like 4 or 5 times now.
yeah, not this time, which surprised me. I'm not gonna lie to you. This I was expecting more to see above a billion. Because exactly what you said. Look, we had pumped to like 1.2 billion, dumped to 1.6, made a higher high, came back to the same place, made a higher high. So to me, it's slowly showing weakness, right? So maybe some consolidation here, and then we rip again. Maybe I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think the billion dollar level is like very important to flip. Otherwise, it starts getting kind of Christmas tree ish and dies like kind of like Goat did. But
Yeah, and then
if it does flip
mhm,
1 billion and you see that get retested and hold, that means people kind of see value there. They're targeting 5, 10 billion, right?
mhm.
But a lot of work to do before that happens. It could just go up to a billion, sell off, and never go above there again, right?
Exactly. And exactly. That is a possibility too. Another thing I do want to note is that we just came into bearish territory, right, for the MACD. So we hadn't seen that since the coin came out, right? We were above it, and then here's the zero line. But now we're starting to be below on the daily. And this kind of shows bearishness, but again, this is fart coin, so sometimes just ignore technical analysis on this sort of coin. But I do want to just pinpoint that if there is a possibility that if we could maybe retest 500 million if we come lower, and then 400 million to then maybe before bounce. But another thing that I do see is maybe potentially doing like a shoulder head and maybe like another shoulder. So bear market starts if we even have a bear market. But yeah, so just something to think about for Farcoin. And again, we'll continue to give you updates over the next few weeks just to see where the market is, because the market changes very fast. So yeah,
Yeah, I think
we had
that
a
actually let's take a quick look at AIXBT just to
yeah,
wrap it all up.
yeah. Justin,
Because
Aaron said Justin's son to take over E Foundation. What do you think?
I mean, Tron has outperformed ETH, so it's not a bad idea. He's obviously done something right there.
Yeah.
Let's get
Um,
Brad Garlic from Garlic House from XRP while we're at it.
um, all right. I mean, yeah, I mean, this is incredible. I mean, this chart was all right. Here's the thing. Like one, and it's a good thing that you brought this up. We're starting to hit
And I
resistance here.
so sorry, just before you get started,
Yeah.
like we did call this one in the Telegram, like around 160, I think 200 million, that range. And then I said if we lose point 0.6, like I'm out. I'm getting out of it. So this is why you guys got to be in that Telegram.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
We'll post it on.
here's a chart that you had. I believe this was December 2nd. That's crazy. So yeah, it was December 2nd at around 200 million market cap, right? And let's go back and look at how far we got. We reached almost a billion. That was an easy 4x. Easy,
It
easy
wasn't
4x.
easy, but it was a 4x.
It was not, dude. It was an easy
There's a lot
4x
of
from that
dumps.
entry. From that entry that you had, I think it was perfect. I mean, look at
Yeah.
that. But I mean, I like the fact that you brought this up because I just saw this on Fartcoin. I just saw this on Sui. I mean, we are in a resistance area here. Same thing with Doge, right? All of them are showing resistance levels around here, right? That support. But so again, one of the things that I want to see is us flip for all of them. Otherwise, I don't know. We'll have to come back to this, but ideally, what we want to see for AXBT is something like this, right? A shoulder head and a shoulder. Maybe we hit here again. This would be a good entry, the right shoulder, and then continue to the upside. But I'm going to ask you something. Do you think we get back to all-time highs, or maybe make even higher highs? What do you think?
I think it just depends. Like they obviously were able to get a product out, get attention on it. I think the big question with all this AI stuff is there's really no business model, right? There's no path to like something sustainable like DeFi or like a lending or like Hype even that has a DEX, right? Or even Sui or Sol, like they sell block space. And with AIXPT or AI16Z, any of these AI coins, you don't you can't put your finger on the business model, right? There's not a
Yeah.
working business model yet. But with that said, if they do figure it out, I think it does have the potential, like just with the amount of like organic attention and volume they were getting without even having any listings. If they figure out some sort of product, some sort of like use for the token, I think it could come back. But I think like the kind of shiny new toy pump wore off, and now people are waiting for the next thing to get excited about.
Yeah, yeah. And again, guys, what you just finished with, it's probably something that we need to answer, or we need to say, is that, over the last 3 months we've been in every trend, have we not? We've gone into almost every trend that has come out. That was bullish.
Yeah, that's what
So
it's about. Just being early, but you have to be early to get in, and you have to exit early too. You can't, you know, you don't have to have time the perfect exit, but you do have to exit. That's how you make money.
yeah, yeah, 100%. But yeah, well, I mean, I think we should probably give another update maybe later on this week, just because there are some questionable things that I'm seeing. The way it's, obviously bouncing back, but yeah, there may be potential entries for longs if we continue to the upside, right? Which I think we still will have that. And just before we go, let's look at total three. I think that's going to give us some good some good insight. Uh, I mean, yeah, I mean, honestly, this makes sense. I mean, a lot of coins, like, we had pumped, and then we had to retest that level, and that's exactly what we did. And same thing for total three. We had this target, we reached that target, um, and then it was pretty obvious for the dump. We made bearish divergence of total three. I think this is a great indicator to really keep an eye on it. The perfect time to sell off, according to Total Three, was on Thursday, January 16th. That was the perfect time to just get out, because that's when he started showing bearish
That
divergence.
was
And
like 2 weeks ago.
yeah, it's 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And then we did see one of the other charts. It was, I think it was Sui, right? It was like January 13th. So it was very close. It comes very
Yeah,
close. But yeah, one of the things I'm looking at is for us to reclaim these levels. I think in almost all coins. And like I said, we just did a huge bounce. We should expect for us to kind of like make a flag or kind of go sideways, maybe an accumulation range, before we continue to the upside. Yeah. One last thing. I guess question for you is: do you think this is the start of a bear market, or are we going to go into higher highs?
I think all coins.
Excluding BTC.
I think all coins have been in a bear market for the last 2 3 weeks.
Hmm.
I think anyone in altcoins ate a lot of drawdown or lost. People got blown out. Like it is a bear market for altcoins. There's no question about that for me. Because try to find an altcoin that has outperformed Bitcoin in the last 3 weeks. You can't. Bear market. For
Hmm.
Bitcoin, I don't think we are yet.
Okay.
Um,
So,
but whether it's like a
mhm.
short-lived or if it's short-lived or if it's extended, like drawn out, I think that all depends on a few things. There's actually, I'm glad you brought this up because there's a crypto, there's the crypto czar giving us a speech or some sort of press conference tomorrow. So I think to look out for, like what gets us out of like this altcoin funk. It's either going to be something really bullish on the regulation front, two uncertain things, but those are two catalysts I would look out for. But I think we're already in a bear market, like the way things are trading.
Okay. Um, so I'll give you my 2 cents here. I think that for most altcoins, we are in a bear market. I don't think a lot of these were going to come back. Um, I'll give you an example really quick to prove a point. Arkham, I was very bullish
Yeah,
on Arkham, right? I did buy in very low, so I had an incredible. Uh, what's the ticker?
and it's
Arkham.
ARKM, I think.
Yeah, so I had and this is one of the lessons I'd learned. I round tripped, and I didn't actually. I sold early. I sold down here, and look at that, right? But it's kind of wild because you have. I remember entering like around 50 cents, right? And then we went from 50 cents all the way up to we did like a 6x to $4, and then we came back down, and now we've just been slowly in demise. Like we have not made any higher highs ever since. And I think this proves my point with most altcoins, right? And Arkham is a great project. Where I will say that I may see some higher highs on some altcoins, and those are be very split. There's a few, and so I'm shifting to a belief of where most altcoins are dead, most everything dead, right? But there will be Bitcoin, obviously, and a few altcoins, whether that's Dino altcoins or whatever, that are going to continue to perform well, if not outperform Bitcoin, right? And I could say that I can count them in maybe one hand, those coins, or maybe two hands, but I don't think that we're going to have that many. And it's probably very important to look at those coins. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, I agree. I think all they are right. The, there's always the dynamic of, but barring is it's going to be a tough time for all coins.
I'm sorry, man. You cut off. Can you repeat that?
No, I was just saying I agree until changes, right? Until there's a catalyst, and that's kind of what we
Hmm.
have to look out for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. I think that wraps it up. Unless you want to add anything else, we do have I think it's a jobs report coming out on Thursday. So Wednesday or Thursday, I can't remember. But yeah, keep an eye on volatility because I'm pretty sure we're gonna get volatile then too. So yeah,
Yeah, we'll give you guys updates in the Telegram, and thanks for watching.
thanks for watching, guys.